for the uses of glucose. Firstly, we need to remember the word equation for photosynthesis. To write a word equation, you need to put an arrow in the centre. The arrow represents the chemical reaction, and it's never an equal sign. On the left side of the arrow are the reactants. State me the two reactants for photosynthesis. The two reactants are carbon dioxide and water. On the right side of the arrow are the products. Write down the two products that are made during photosynthesis. The two products are oxygen and glucose. So the word equation tells us that carbon dioxide from the air, water from the soil react together to produce oxygen and glucose. For this to happen, sunlight is required and chlorophyll in the chloroplast. Sunlight you will see above the arrow, and chlorophyll can be written below the arrow. The two products are extremely useful, and we're now going to break down the uses of oxygen and glucose. Oxygen have two uses. The first one is that oxygen diffuses into the air through the stoma of the leaf. The plant can actually use some of the oxygen for respiration in the cells in the mitochondria. Respiration releases or transfers energy. And if you remember, the word equation is the opposite to photosynthesis. It's glucose plus oxygen produces carbon dioxide and water. Glucose have 5 uses, and you need to know each one in detail. So the first use is the plant can use glucose for respiration. It reacts with the oxygen to release energy. The second use of glucose is to make cellulose. Cellulose is the component found in cell walls. So we have strong cell walls. This is really important because you've got to remember that plants don't have a skeleton or a backbone. So they require these strong cell walls for support and strength. Glucose can make proteins. The glucose combine with nitrate ions taken up from the soil. Nitrate ion is an example of a mineral ion, and together they make amino acids. So you can see in the image there, you have an amino acid chain that makes up the protein, and there's different types of proteins. Proteins are really important for growth and repair. The fourth and fifth use of glucose is about how glucose is stored. So glucose can be stored as fat and oils. These stored lipids are found in seeds, and it provides energy and insulation. The fifth store is starch. So looking at the image, we can see that starch is a long chain of glucose molecules. So starch is a polymer made up of glucose. And this is really important because when photosynthesis cannot happen, or the rate of photosynthesis is reduced, for example, in the winter, when there's less sunlight, that stored starch can then be broken down into glucose. And the plant can then use that glucose to respire, to make cellulose, to make proteins. Starch is a good storage molecule because it's insoluble. It cannot dissolve. If a cell just stored glucose in its original form, the cell would actually then absorb lots of water, which will cause the cell to swell. So it's important to be stored as starch. Starch can be tested using the iodine solution. Iodine solution is an orange-brown colour. In this example given to you, there are 2 leaves. Both of them have had iodine solution pipetted onto them. The first leaf we can see is an orange-brown colour. That observation tells us there is no starch in the leaf. The second leaf is turned a blue-black colour. This informs us that that leaf has stored glucose as starch. From this video, you need to remember the photosynthesis equation. You need to know the use of oxygen. You need to know the 5 uses of glucose in great detail. And you need to know the test for starch.